Adobe has been engaged with the publishing industry since its inception. That industry is currently in the midst of trying to identify where they go from here in this new digital world. The New York Times is a really forward-thinking company. They wanted to create an application that would work across platform, identically on Mac and Windows, but also that could reach out to Linux-based devices.
The second major requirement was basically to really allow on-the-go experience, so that you could take the news with you like a printed newspaper.
So one of our goals with this application was to really create something that was actually less of an application and more of a newspaper. We wanted to make sure that the reading experience was not compromised. Even though you're reading on an LCD screen, we wanted to make sure that the text was rendered as crisply and cleanly as possible, using the same fonts that the New York Times uses in the print edition. We have a mode that we call Browse Mode, which allows you to zoom back and look at each article as a thumbnail. It's a much more natural way, just like you might with a physical newspaper. Flip through it, identify something you're interested in, read that, skip the other stuff.
Instead of a templated approach, which is sort of the status quo right now, we took an approach of using an art directing algorithm, or an algorithm that could make decisions and modify the template on the fly depending on the size of the window and the content available. It allowed every page to look and feel more like a printed paper, and to be easier to read and to feel more natural than what you'll traditionally get on a website. One complaint that people had with the website is that it's almost like a bottomless pit of information. It constantly updates and you don't really get a sense of what is today's news or what was yesterday's news. With the Times Reader app, you can actually go back in the archive up to a week and synchronize a week's worth of content. We expected people to use this application on increasingly popular netbooks and tablet-like form factors, so the ability to use the application entirely with the arrow keys was something that we focused on.
We built this application with Flex, and we targeted Air really from the outset. As one of the key features of this application is that you can use it offline. People want to be able to sync up the content, hop on an airplane and be able to access today's news. It's got interactive crossword puzzles integrated into it. It's got news and video, so you can watch the latest video feeds from the Times. It's a really good example of a really useful Air application that people are going to use on a daily basis.
When we started this project, the Open Screen Initiative was just in its first fledgling stages, but we soon realized that this application could almost be the poster child for Open Screen, in that we've built an application that runs on Mac and runs on Windows and Linux. It's something that will work on a really small device, or it can work on a large HD display. That's what the Open Screen project was all about, the same experience across a multitudes of devices and screens. Built into the Flash player is the Flash text engine, and that's really responsible for the core rendering of the text and type, and leveraging a lot of open type features. On top of that, though, is something called TLF, or the Text Layout Framework. And that's a text framework for paragraph level layout. So you can style a headline and style body text with a very fine degree of control, have text that wraps between multiple columns.
All of the advanced text capabilities that are in some of our publishing tools are now making their way into Flash Player and Air, into that platform for the first time. As soon as you walk into the lobby, you can tell that the Times cares a lot about user experience and how they interface with their users. They've got a whole library of devices, lots of little netbooks and touchscreens and e-ink devices. And what that is really their way of painting a vision for the future of the Times and for the news industry.
We were lucky enough to actually experience a front page editorial meeting. So at 3 p.m. every day, all the lead head editors, senior editors meet and decide what will go onto the front page of the New York Times the next day. We actually got to see Tom Bodkin sketch out what the paper would look like on a small piece of grid paper, and then the next day we delivered to our hotel room. There it was. I was definitely excited to work on something that I read every day and that I know millions of other people read every day, and to try to improve that experience was, I guess I just feel lucky to work on that.
One of the focuses of this effort has been to create not just a solution for the New York Times, but a framework that utilizes the latest products from Adobe to really make the experience as good as it can be, but then to be able to reuse that for other publishers. This whole effort has been an example that we're trying to foster within our team of experience-led innovation.